I got the future.
Welcome to a new video on my channel. It's about pharmaceutical representatives again. I was thinking today, since I get asked so often, what does a pharmaceutical representative actually do? What is it even? That I should just make a short video about it. Questions and answers. Let's just start with the first question. Is a pharmaceutical representative, the question I get asked a lot, what do you actually do? What kind of job title is that anyway? And that's when you start to think, what do you actually do? Is a representative of a company? Yeah, sure. There's a lot more behind it. A pharmaceutical representative is a professional who, on behalf of a company, a pharmaceutical company, or a medical device manufacturer, informs medical professionals, doctors, and pharmacies about new medications, therapies, and their applications. We are often also responsible for presenting scientific studies and making sure that these are the latest information and developments for our product, whether it's a medication or a medical device. And also that the advancements in pharmacology reach the right people, meaning the doctors, the pharmacies, or even the medical care staff or specialists. That's what a pharmaceutical representative does, broadly speaking. Of course, there's also a huge amount of training behind it so that you can acquire all these qualifications. That was the first question. Let's move on to the next one. What tasks does a pharmaceutical representative have? That's kind of similar to the question of what does a pharmaceutical representative do? Daily tasks include visiting doctors, pharmacies, and hospital staff. So there's a lot that goes into it. So everything that has to do with our product in some way, when it comes to medications, it's usually the doctors in hospitals or the doctors in private practice, of course, depending on the medication, relevant specialist group. When it comes to medical devices, there's a bit more to it. The pharmacies, medical supply stores, and so on and so forth. That's part of the job, visiting them and informing them about the medications, when we talk about medications, about how they work, their side effects, and their possible applications. Furthermore, we participate in medical conferences. We also attend trade fairs, not just as visitors, but we usually have a booth there on behalf of our company and present the products or medications that we represent from the company. Those are the main tasks of the pharmaceutical representative. That also includes documentation. So everything we do and carry out, we obviously write it down somewhere. Those are our visit reports. So what actually distinguishes the profession of a pharmaceutical representative from that of a salesperson in another industry? In the end, everyone represents their company. For us, that's the case, which is why there's a lot of training and a solid examination behind it, because we discuss and are allowed to discuss medications. In that case, it's also regulated by the Medicines Act. That's why working as a pharmaceutical representative requires a deep scientific understanding and dealing with complex products that obviously have an impact on the health of people and patients who take our medication or use our medical products. There is a strong focus on conveying scientific information, of course, while adhering to ethical guidelines. And that distinguishes the role of a pharmaceutical representative from other sales positions. Let's move on to the next question. We just talked about ethical guidelines. What ethical guidelines do pharmaceutical representatives have to follow? So we have to strictly adhere to ethical guidelines, whether they are national or international, whether they are laid out in drug law or somewhere else. This also includes that all the information we provide to our customers must be correct and complete. We have to communicate both the benefits and the risks of our product, whether it's a medication or a medical device. Bribery attempts are strictly prohibited to influence the customer, in this case, the doctor, to prescribe the medication. We are not allowed to say mix for the prescription of this amount of medication. That is strictly prohibited. That would violate the ethical guidelines. Our job is to present our product in such a way, highlighting its benefits, that the doctor sees, okay, this is exactly what my patients with this and that condition need. That's where I apply it. Then we have our goal. What challenges do you face as a pharmaceutical representative? I was just about to say exposed, but what challenges do you face? It's just as important for us to always stay up to date, so we need to keep educating ourselves. Just like doctors, who always need to stay up to date with their knowledge and also pursue further education, we as pharmaceutical representatives have to do the same. Additionally, the challenge is that we have a lot of travel activity, depending on how large the area is. We often have to drive long distances before we reach the first customer. This can also mean that we might spend 1 or 2 nights away from home and stay in a hotel because we're, for example, in a remote area of our sales territory. Those are just a few of the challenges that exist. On top of that, there are the irregular working hours. It can always happen that we're not in the office from 9 to 5. We need to leave a bit earlier. We might have an event somewhere like a trade fair where we leave a bit earlier and come home later. We can have training sessions somewhere. So these are all just little challenges. Long story short, we don't really have regular working hours. It can sometimes happen that we manage to be home by 4 p.m., but it can also happen that due to the area or other circumstances, we only get home in the evening. That falls a bit into the category of challenges. Let's move on to the next question. A typical workday look like for us? From a pharmaceutical representative, that's a question I always get asked. What do you actually do all day? The day actually starts the night before. You obviously plan where you're going the next day. Which clients am I visiting? What appointments do I have? Do I have fixed appointments that day? That definitely determines the planning of the route. So I don't have an appointment here and then drive somewhere else to do my visits. Furthermore, I should also have everything with me that's important to carry out the visits. The documents, maybe samples or whatever. The visits themselves don't just involve a little small talk and the product presentation. The visits to the doctor, for example, also include questions to find out if there's even a need for the products we're asking him about. What is he currently using to build on that? Furthermore, we also have to document our work. That means the boss and the manager naturally want to know where we've been and what we're doing all day. That means in the evening at the office, she still sits down to enter the visit reports. Plus there are meetings, training sessions, so everything that goes along with it. They usually happen at regular intervals. That's a bit of the daily work life we have. Not every day is the same. That's the nice thing about it. Every day never goes exactly the same way. Sometimes there's this and sometimes there's that. And what I mean by that is, with one client, a conversation might only last 5 minutes because they don't have time. In that regard, another conversation can also last a good hour. So when you're at the practice during lunchtime, or when you have an appointment and the doctor really takes the time to talk with us. Topic: digitalization. How does digitalization actually affect the work of a pharmaceutical representative? It starts with having new communication channels, being able to handle a lot of things. For example, in video conferences, doing a lot via email, or even conducting digital presentations. Digital presentations have also made their way in. In the past, when you presented your case to a doctor, you only had the folders, the so-called cardboard boxes, as we always called them, and you had the paper. Today you have a tablet with the presentation on it, and you can go through it together with the doctor. Additionally, you can conduct training in a way that doesn't tie the clients to one location, and they might not even have the time to do that. But they can sit in front of a monitor at their computer, and you can carry out a digital training session there. Furthermore, digitalization also helps with processing the data you have and creating tour plans, but they can sit in front of a monitor at their computer, and you can conduct a digital training session there. Furthermore, digitalization also helps with processing the data you have and creating tour plans. It's very helpful to make use of this digitalization. I've mentioned digitalization so many times, but it was included in the question. Okay, that's it for the topic of digitalization. There are no more questions. Now it's your turn. Do you like the format? Would you like to have more formats like this? But what's much more important is what questions do you have? Not then, but now. To the pharmaceutical representatives or to me. If I can, I will answer the questions. Maybe we'll do a Q&A format like this again. Until then, I wish you all the best. Until the next video, take care. Bye.
I'll get those two tries.